First contact day was going about as well as you'd expect when the only human diplomat available was a guy nicknamed Jazz Hands McGee. The Galactic Confederation's delegation had arrived in what they assured us was their most impressive diplomatic vessel which, to be fair, did look pretty swanky if you ignored the fact that it bore an uncanny resemblance to a cosmic disco ball. Remember, Jake Jazz Hands McGee whispered to his assistant as they waited at the landing pad, "Whatever you do, don't mention the ship's appearance." The Confederation considers geometric perfection to be the height of sophistication. So his assistant replied with admirable restraint, "You're the one who called it." And I quote, Studio 54's final form in the preliminary briefing. That was different. I was being witty then. This is diplomacy now. The ship's landing ramp extended with all the pomp and circumstance of a Broadway musical number, complete with what Jake could have sworn was choreographed steam release. The delegation emerged in perfect formation, their crystalline exoskeletons catching the sunlight and throwing rainbows across the landing pad. Leading them was Ambassador Zorp, the meticulously groomed, whose title was not so much a formal designation as it was a literal description of their most notable characteristic. "Greetings," esteemed representatives of Jake began, before being interrupted by the screech of feedback from the universal translator. The device had apparently decided that today was the perfect day to demonstrate why government contracts shouldn't always go to the lowest bidder. Zorp's antenna twitched in what Jake hoped was amusement, rather than the prelude to an interstellar incident. "Your barbaric sound waves assault our sensory apparatus in most delightful ways," the ambassador announced, which the translator helpfully rendered as "your mama's cooking smells like feet." Jake maintained his diplomatic smile with the dedication of someone who'd once talked his way out of a parking ticket by convincing the officer that his car was actually performance art. Perhaps we should switch to the backup translator. The backup translator, when activated, chose to interpret every third word as cucumber and insisted on adding in accordance with the prophecy to the end of each sentence. By the time they got the translation issues sorted out, Jake had inadvertently proposed marriage to 3 of the delegation's junior members and somehow agreed to a trade deal involving Earth's entire supply of left-handed screwdrivers. "Well," Jake announced brightly, "now that we can understand each other properly, allow me to welcome you to Earth. We've prepared a formal reception that I'm sure will meet all your species' dietary and atmospheric requirements." "Ah, yes," Zorp replied, their crystalline face fragments rearranging themselves into what their cultural briefing described as a smile, but looked more like a geometry problem having an existential crisis. "We have studied your customs extensively. We understand that it is traditional to engage in the ritual of small talk before addressing matters of galactic importance." "Exactly right. How was your journey?" "We traveled through the cold void of space, surrounded by the ever-present threat of death, sustained only by our ship's life support systems and our unwavering dedication to diplomatic duty." Jake nodded sagely. "Traffic was bad, huh?" The first hour of the reception went surprisingly well, considering that the catering staff had to be talked down from quitting when they realized that several members of the alien delegation absorbed nutrients by osmosis and just wanted to sit in their soup. Jake managed to navigate the cultural minefield with his usual combination of charm, quick thinking, and what his superiors called a concerning ability to make things up on the spot and somehow have them work out. Little did Jake know that his improvisational skills were about to be tested in ways that no diplomatic training course could have prepared him for. But then again, no one really expects to be asked about deicide over dinner. The diplomatic dinner was going exactly as planned, which made Jake nervous because nothing in his career had ever gone exactly as planned. The soup course had been served in specially designed osmotic absorption bowls for the crystalline delegates. Earth's finest chefs had managed to prepare dishes that wouldn't trigger any of the 17 different types of alien allergies, and no one had accidentally declared war on anyone else. Yet. "I must say," Zorp announced, their voice resonating through their perfectly polished crystalline form, "your species has adapted remarkably well to galactic society for being so." "What's the diplomatic term?" "Ah, yes, new to the neighborhood." Jake smiled his best diplomatic smile, the one he'd practiced in the mirror until it looked just sincere enough without promising anything. "We're quite adaptable. Humans have a knack for rolling with the punches." Rolling with. Punch is one of the junior delegates, whose name translated roughly to sparkles at dawn, but only on Tuesdays looked concerned. "Is this some form of combat ritual we should be prepared for?" Just an expression, Jake assured them quickly. It means we're good at handling unexpected situations. Ah, yes. Like your remarkable handling of the great squid uprising of 2023, Zorp nodded sagely. Jake blinked. The what now? Was that not a real event? We found it on something called Wikipedia during our research. I think someone might have been having fun with your research team. We should probably talk about reliable sources later. The conversation meandered through safer topics, trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, and a lengthy discussion about why humans insisted on keeping creatures called cats, despite their clearly being in charge of their households. Everything was going smoothly until Ambassador Zorp, with all the innocent curiosity of someone about to accidentally start an interstellar incident, asked the question. And what about your gods? Our research indicates most species maintain some form of religious or spiritual relationship with their deities. We would be most interested in learning about humanity's divine patrons. The entire human delegation froze. Jake's assistant choked on her water. A waiter in the background dropped an entire tray of desserts. Jake cleared his throat. Well, funny story about that. Oh, we do enjoy funny stories. Zorp's crystalline facets sparkled with anticipation. We, kind of killed them all. The silence that followed was the kind that made regular, awkward silences feel like amateur hour. One of the junior delegates crystallized their soup in shock. You killed. Your god Zorp's perfect geometrical patterns seemed to wobble slightly. Well, when you say it like that, it sounds bad, Jake offered. We prefer to think of it as solving a pest control problem on a cosmic scale. The entire alien delegation spoke in perfect unison, their crystalline forms harmonizing in horror pest control. Maybe I should explain, Jake said, making a mental note to update the diplomatic handbook section on topics to avoid during first contact dinners right after proper handling of accidental marriage proposals, and just before why timeshare presentations are not appropriate diplomatic gifts. And so began what would later be known throughout the galaxy as the most uncomfortable dinner conversation in recorded history, narrowly beating out the time the hive mind of Betelgeuse tried to explain the concept of individual thought to a collective consciousness over appetizers. So Jake began, settling into what his co-workers called his storytime pose. It all started when my grandfather, Dr. Theodore Teddy McGee, noticed something weird about miracles. They had a measurable energy signature. The alien delegation leaned forward in perfect synchronization, their crystalline forms catching the light like the world's most expensive chandelier having an anxiety attack. Now, Grandpa Teddy wasn't trying to disprove the divine or anything dramatic like that. He was actually trying to figure out why his microwave kept turning itself on at 3 a.m. and making hot pockets he hadn't even bought. That's when he discovered the energy patterns. Your grandfather discovered your gods. Through a malfunctioning food preparation device, Zorp asked, their perfect geometry betraying just a hint of disbelief. Hey, humans have made some of our greatest discoveries by accident. You know penicillin was discovered because someone was bad at cleaning their lab, right? Jake paused. Actually, maybe don't look too closely at our medical history. Anyway, the story unfolded like a conspiracy theorist's fever dream, except with peer-reviewed papers and reproducible results. It turned out that what humanity had been worshipping as gods were actually pan-dimensional energy parasites feeding off human belief and consciousness. They maintained their power through a combination of genuine reality manipulation and what Grandpa Teddy called cosmic-grade gaslighting. The real kicker, Jake continued, warming to his subject, was when we figured out they weren't even very good at being gods. I mean, if you're going to pose as an all-powerful deity, maybe don't leave your energy signature all over the place like cosmic fingerprints at a crime scene. But how did you eliminate them? A junior delegate asked, their crystalline form vibrating with a mixture of horror and fascination. Well, that's where humanity's greatest traits came into play: spite, ingenuity, and our remarkable ability to turn anything into a business opportunity. Jake grinned. Grandpa Teddy partnered with Earl the Exterminator Johnson, who'd been running a pest control company in New Jersey for 30 years. Earl had this crazy idea that if these things were parasites, maybe we could treat them like really big, really powerful cockroaches. The entire delegation shuddered in perfect harmony at the mention of cockroaches, proving that some concepts are truly universal. The Great Divine Pest Control Initiative of 2018 was probably humanity's finest hour, even if we did have to classify most of it to prevent panic. we developed what was essentially bug spray for gods, a way to disrupt their energy patterns and sever their connection to human consciousness. Earl insisted on calling it Deity Be Gone. But surely they fought back. Zorp's perfectly maintained surface showed the first signs of stress fractures. Oh, they tried. But here's the thing about humanity: once we figure out something's been taking advantage of us, we get really, really motivated. Plus, it turns out that entities used to being worshipped don't handle spite very well. The moment people started treating them less like divine beings and more like a celestial roach problem, their power started to fade. Jake leaned back, a proud smile on his face. By 2020, we'd cleared out the last of them. Earl's company went intergalactic, though we had to change the slogan from "No God Too Big, No Faith Too Small" after some complaints from the Interstellar Religious Tolerance Committee. "And your species just accepted this?" one of the delegates asked, their voice crackling with disbelief. "Are you kidding? We turned it into a holiday. Divine Pest Control Day is the third Tuesday in May. There's a parade and everything. Kids dress up as cosmic exterminators and go around pretending to spray for gods. The ice cream shops even make special flavors. Deity Delight is particularly popular, though Paradise Lost Pistachio has its fans." The delegation sat in stunned silence, their perfect crystalline forms processing this information with all the grace of a quantum computer being asked to run Pong. So Jake concluded, reaching for his water glass, "That's why when people ask us about our gods, we just say we killed them all. It's simpler than explaining about the cosmic bug spray." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of someone in the kitchen dropping another tray of desserts, presumably out of narrative necessity. The next few days were filled with what Jake could only describe as the most surreal series of meetings in diplomatic history, and he'd once had to explain to a hive mind why humans couldn't share their memories via interpretive dance. The Galactic Confederation had dispatched their finest researchers, who arrived in ships that looked like they'd been designed by sacred geometry enthusiasts with too much time on their hands. Their lead scientist, whose name sounded like wind chimes having an argument with mathematics, spent hours poring over humanity's records. Fascinating, they chimed. Literally, while reviewing the documentation. Your species didn't just eliminate these entities, you filed paperwork about it. There's a whole section on proper divine extermination procedures in your environmental protection guidelines. Well, yeah, Jake shrugged. You can't just go around spraying cosmic bug spray without filing an environmental impact statement. Do you have any idea how much paperwork is involved in Dicide? The insurance forms alone took 3 months. The alien researchers were particularly amazed by the marketing materials from Earl's original Divine Pest Control Service, the company's training videos featuring Earl himself in his signature hazmat suit with "Who You Gonna Call?" Probably not this number, but worth a shot, emblazoned on the back, became required viewing among the delegation. Your species, Zorp observed during one briefing, their crystalline form practically vibrating with a mixture of horror and admiration, turned the elimination of pan-dimensional energy parasites into a profitable business venture with franchising opportunities. Earl always said that the only thing better than solving a cosmic horror was solving it with a solid business model. Jake replied proudly. He's retired now, living in Florida. Still consults occasionally when someone thinks they've got a divine infestation, though it's usually just quantum fluctuations or someone's cat knocking things over in a statistically improbable way. The research team's findings sent shockwaves through the Galactic Confederation. Humanity, it turned out, was the only known species to have not only identified their gods as parasitic entities, but also developed a practical solution that involved corporate branding and quarterly earnings reports. "But weren't you afraid?" one of the junior researchers asked during a coffee break, their crystalline form condensing the beverage directly through their surface. "These were beings your species had worshipped for millennia." "Look," Jake explained, dunking a cookie into his coffee with the casual air of someone explaining basic arithmetic to a quantum physicist, "humans have a pretty simple approach to problems. Once we figure out something's been messing with us, we tend to get really creative about solving it." Earl offered a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Hard to argue with that kind of confidence. The researchers' final report to the Confederation was a masterpiece of diplomatic understatement, describing humans as uniquely pragmatic in their approach to theological pest control and disturbingly effective at monetizing cosmic horror. The appendix included a detailed analysis of Earl's pricing structure, which several alien civilizations found more terrifying than the actual god-killing. But it was during the final presentation of their findings that things got really interesting. One of the younger delegates, their crystalline form slightly clouded with anxiety, raised what in their species passed for a hand. They began, their voice resonating with the particular frequency of someone about to say something they really shouldn't in a meeting. Has anyone else noticed that these energy signatures look remarkably similar to the divine guidance our friends the Luminous Harmony Collective have been receiving? The room went so quiet you could hear a paradigm shift. The revelation that the Luminous Harmony Collective might be experiencing their own divine pest problem created exactly the kind of diplomatic crisis Jake had been trained for, which is to say, none of his training applied at all. Let me get this straight, Jake said during the emergency session, where the crystalline delegation's anxiety was manifesting as uncontrolled prismatic refractions across the ceiling. Your allies have been receiving divine guidance that just happens to benefit their trading partners while slowly draining their civilization's resources. When you say it like that, Zorp replied, their perfect geometry showing distinct signs of stress, it sounds suspiciously like a cosmic scale pyramid scheme. More like a parasitic multi-level marketing scheme, Jake muttered. Next you'll tell me they've been trying to recruit other civilizations into their belief system with promises of spiritual enlightenment and exclusive cosmic rewards. The uncomfortable silence that followed was broken only by the sound of several delegates simultaneously realizing they'd attended some very questionable seminars on enhanced spiritual networking opportunities. I don't suppose, Zorp ventured carefully, that your grandfather's company ever considered galactic expansion? Jake pulled out his phone with the practiced ease of someone who'd been waiting for exactly this moment. Funny you should ask. Earl's semi-retired, but his daughter, my Aunt Patricia, has been running the family business. She's been looking for opportunities to take divine pest control into galactic, even had the slogan ready, your problems are universal, so are our solutions. The speed with which the Galactic Confederation moved to establish a partnership with Earth's premier divine pest control service set new records in bureaucratic efficiency. Aunt Patricia arrived 3 days later in what she called her deluxe intervention vehicle. A ship that looked like someone had merged a pest control van with a space shuttle and then added way too many warning labels. Now remember. She briefed the Joint Task Force, standing in front of a holographic presentation that featured surprisingly professional clip art of divine entities being sprayed with cosmic bug spray. The key to successful divine pest removal is documentation. I want energy readings, manifestation logs. And somebody better be recording all miraculous occurrences. And yes, before anyone asks, we do offer a multi-planet discount. The operation was planned with the kind of precision that comes from combining human ingenuity with alien bureaucracy. The Luminous Harmony Collective situation had all the classic signs, mysterious benefits that seemed too good to be true, an inexplicable drain on resources, and what Aunt Patricia called that distinct feeling of being spiritually marked down in a cosmic outlet more. The trick, she explained while calibrating what looked like a cross between a proton pack and a garden sprayer, isn't just eliminating the entities, it's making sure they can't come back. That's why we offer our patented divine protection plan now with extended warranty options. Jake watched with pride as humanity's unique approach to cosmic problems was about to go galactic. After all, who better to handle an infestation of parasitic divine entities than a species that had turned Decide into a customer service opportunity? The liberation of the Luminous Harmony Collective from their divine parasites went down in galactic history as the most professionally managed apocalypse ever conducted. Aunt Patricia's team moved through their civilization with the efficiency of a cleaning service that just happened to specialize in cosmic horror. And would you like the optional blessing removal package, she'd ask while her team set up their equipment. It comes with a free aura cleansing and a complimentary fridge magnet. The parasitic entities, faced with humanity's unique combination of corporate efficiency and industrial-grade spite, didn't stand a chance. It turned out that divine beings were significantly less intimidating when confronted with a team of professionals in hazmat suits who treated them like a particularly stubborn mold problem. Within weeks, divine pest control had become the most talked about human business in the galaxy. Their advertisement got gods. Get Help became a sensation across 17 star systems. The company's stock price skyrocketed, though explaining divine pest control futures to alien stock exchanges proved challenging. 6 months later, Jake found himself at the Grand Galactic Bar Grill, explaining to a group of fascinated aliens why humans were now known throughout space as the Great Exterminators. "So let me make sure I understand this correctly," said a methane-breathing entity who looked like a lava lamp had gotten a PhD in philosophy. "Your species not only eliminated their own divine parasites, but turned it into a profitable service industry." With a satisfaction guarantee, Jake nodded, sipping his drink through what he hoped was the correct orifice of his space-worthy cocktail glass. "We're also offering franchise opportunities in the Andromeda Galaxy. Our marketing department says there's a lot of untapped potential in unexplored space." The news spread across the galaxy faster than a quantum hiccup. Soon, other civilizations began examining their own divine interactions with newfound suspicion. Divine Pest Control's business cards became the most sought-after items in diplomatic circles, often traded for valuable technology or prime real estate in developing star systems. Aunt Patricia had to hire more staff to keep up with demand. The company's training program, From Prayers to Sprayers, a complete guide to divine pest management, became required reading at several prestigious galactic universities. The Galactic Confederation eventually created a new classification for humanity species with unusual problem-solving approaches, class entrepreneurial. They also established a special diplomatic protocol for human interactions that included the phrase "warning may attempt to monetize cosmic horror." Back on Earth, Earl came out of retirement long enough to give a commencement speech at the newly established Academy of Professional Divine Intervention. His closing words became famous throughout known space. "Remember, kids, there's no problem so cosmic that it can't be solved with the right combination of science, spite, and a solid business plan." As for Jake Jazz Hands McGee, he received a promotion and a new title, Ambassador of Paranormal Pest Relations. His business card, printed on paper that somehow sparkled in dimensions that shouldn't exist, read specializing in divine diplomacy and cosmic customer service. The universe, it turned out, had a sense of humor after all. It just needed humanity to help it understand the punchline and then charge a reasonable fee for the explanation. And somewhere, in the vast expanse of space, a divine entity looked at a divine pest control warning label and decided that maybe, just maybe, this galaxy wasn't worth the hassle after all. Early termination fee would apply, of course.